The day started out fine. The outside world was bright, warm day. The calm blue sky had no clouds in sight. Everything was just so relaxing that if you could just sit down against the cool grass, you'd feel as if nothing bad could ever happen in that moment. As time ticked by, I decided not to waste this wonderful-looking day and take Romano tomato picking. It sounded harmless, and he had even woken from a nap, so my little underling was actually in a better mood. He didn't even argue when I asked him to put on his shoes, or when I asked him to carry the tomato basket. It was all very refreshing. As we walked, I started chanting to Romano about all the tomatoes and how to pick up the most ripe ones. He simply nodded, obviously still tired from his little siesta from earlier. No doubt I would have to watch him in case he picked the wrong ones. Now that would truly be horrifying. Regardless, when we arrived to the vast field of plumped red goodness, we got to work. After a good hour of showing Romano which tomatoes were good and which were bad, I let him have one section to pick from. I went off just a few feet away. A terrible, terrible idea. Leaving the little baby alone like that. I gathered a handful of tomatoes. After picking them with my own approval, I began to walk back to where I left Romano alone. The basket was there, barely full with only 2 plump tomatoes sitting inside. But Romano was nowhere in sight. Of course, like any responsible country, I completely panicked. I started to run across the vast field that was aces wide. Romano was so small. Where could he be? I screamed out, calling for him, like a worried papa whose wife would beat him if she knew he had lost their bebé precioso. Romano! Romano! ¿Dónde estás? Ven aquí, por favor. Romano! I ran around that field for what felt like hours. The once calming sunlight now beamed down at me with a heat that made me sweat. The cool breeze that had felt so nice against my skin is now whipped past my frantic running, and the calm blue sky was slowly being covered in dark, gray clouds. Would it rain? Ay, qué horrible. I had to find Romano as soon as possible. As the clouds covered the sun, the soft rumble of thunder growled across the sky. I couldn't help but look up and worry. Dios mío, please help me find Romano. As if some sign or act of cruel fate, I tripped. Down and down I went, rolling down a small hill. Tomatoes hit my face. Mud coated my entire body. And I'm pretty sure I lost a shoe. But when I came to a stop, there he was, taking a little siesta on top of the cool grass and using a few tomatoes as a pillow. My heart lifted in relief. I stood up and wiped the mud and the fruit off. Carefully, I picked up this sleeping, troublesome child and I walked home. Though sadly it began to rain on the way, I had to cover little Romano with my shirt. This led me to getting a nasty cold, but duty calls. I lost many fine tomatoes in that storm. It ruined so many of my crops that I eventually went into a depth so deep that I could drown. It was horrifyingly painful crawling out of that depth. But it was all worth it because nothing was more blood-curdling than losing Romano.